Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is October 18th. And we have a great show planned for you tonight. We will do the follow-up or the conclusion of ADRIP, and we also have several follow-up items for you as well. Before I bring on my co-host, I've been noticing, because I put this broadcast out on YouTube, and for whatever reason, my voice is coming through really, really faint, although as I'm on the air, that is not happening. So not sure what's going on with that. So all of the YouTube listeners, I am aware of it. I just have to pinpoint the problem. Not sure if it's a microphone or it is what it is. So thank you for your support and being patient. So with that said, let me bring on my co-host. Let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Peace and love, sis. I'm well. How about you?
I'm well. Good to hear your voice.
Likewise.
All right. Let me bring on Sis Sandra. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Oh, peace and love, sis. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
It's good.
Good.
Hi,
Good
Brother
to hear
Sean.
your voice.
Peace and love.
Hear yours. I want to tell you, on that YouTube stuff, they trying to say that people are influencing the elections and all that sort of stuff. So they may be doing a lot of that stuff deliberately.
Yeah, and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I had several people complain about it, so I'm like, well, let me go back and listen. And I'm like, yeah, why am I sounding so low? But it's not the case when we're on the air. So I'm going to try to maybe switch out microphones to see if that's the issue.
I doubt it is, because I hear you really.
It too. Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah, I doubt it too, but I try to be fair to they raglasses, but you know how that you know how that is. Although it's been a big buzz because YouTube went down. Was it yesterday? It went down worldwide.
Really?
So,
I think that was over the weekend.
It was over the weekend? Okay. So folks been, well, what's up with that? Blah, blah, blah. This jumping off, that jumping off. So, we shall see. We shall see. I'll let one of you start. Do either one of you have any? Go ahead on with the fuckery. There's so much stuff that's been jumping off, as usual.
Well, I was looking at this Trump stuff with this Saudi prince and all that kind of mess with the journalism, the person. And do I remember that he was over there doing rituals with them folks and claiming he's king?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. When they were standing around that crystal ball.
Yes, exactly. And asking everybody to find the scepter for him and bring it to him because he's the king and all that kind of mess. And now they personas non grata. Yeah, okay. I don't believe it. I think it's total drama. Total drama. You can't be friends 1 minute and then talk about we gonna do this and do that to you next. But that's how they roll. That's how they roll. Yeah. They've been rolling for centuries, and they can't be trusted with their friends if they even have any.
That's true.
So I'm just really not surprised that they're turning on each other, because they're supposed to do that anyway. But what that guy got killed for, they haven't said. But anyway.
Oh, a dude that had came up missing.
Asami, whatever his name is, or Jamari, or what? Yeah. And then it's such a distraction, because most people don't even know who he is.
Right.
But they're making it a big distraction for what?
Right, as they usually do. Right.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I have to say about that one.
Yep, makes sense. Brother Sean, you have anything? Any go ahead on with the fuckery, and then I know we had, I didn't know if you had follow-up items also you wanted to discuss.
The election itself is my go ahead with the fuckery. How are you electing people to a bankrupt corporation? I mean, the gig is up. We ain't did no new contracts, so I mean, what y'all doing? I mean, the Pope lightweight was trying to protect them for a minute, but he told them the gig is up. He got too many problems he got to worry about his damn.
His dammy, these lawsuits that's coming for that ass,
Well, I mean, people are up in arms about this election. They even get mad at you if you tell them you don't vote.
Right.
Say shit like, well, don't complain. You ain't got the right to complain about nothing on this land. I'm Aboriginal. This is my fucking land. I'm complaining about the whole goddamn system. And then these dumbass, they want to keep playing that game.
Right.
These people got to go. And
so agreed.
If they attach to them and just want to keep playing these games, they can go do it over in Europe. You can go vote all you want to in Europe, Africa, wherever you go, follow them back to in a little while. Because they got to go.
totally, 1000% agree. It's interesting you talk about the voting, and I should have grabbed the article, but there is an article floating around where some quote Native Americans are complaining, saying that their vote is being suppressed. And I just laughed. I'm like, wait a minute, that don't even add up, bruh. If you're a sovereign nation, what the hell are you doing voting? So to just show you how the hypocrisy just keeps going on, and it only keeps going on because people keep allowing it and feeding into that bullshit to go on. Because that whole Trump card fiasco, number one, I still believe, Trump card's going to play both sides of the house. But I do believe that he's going to be the last go-round, and he's put in place as everything is going to be dismantled. And it's not surprising to me that the general population is still trying to hold on to an illusion, and a bad illusion at that, is the messed up part about it. So I totally agree with you, Brother Sean, on that voting. But when I saw the whole Native American person claiming that, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're not supposed to be voting anyway if you're quote sovereign. So that's just yet another example to show you that even how they set up the Native Americans, it was never right from the start. It was just fraudulent all the way around, because as we're going through ADRIP, it clearly sets out and states how the indigenous people to the land is separate and has nothing to do whatsoever with that corporate entity, and they should be respected and treated as such. But folks have been brainwashed to the point that they, begging to be a part of the fuckery, part of the illusion. So that's the part that had me just taken back when I just saw that a couple hours ago. And then in addition to that, you had the whole Elizabeth Warren false flag, where her bringing her dizzy ass out claiming that she's Native American. Trump card had teased her back up in the past, saying that she doesn't look Indian to him. So this week she gonna bring her ass out with some funky ass DNA testing, talking about her DNA testing proves that she's native to the land. She's Cherokee. So, everybody knows how the story ended. The Cherokee Nation stood up and pretty much said, no, she's not native. And then when folks dug into the DNA testing, it was, the percentage was so low, which none of those DNA tests are, they're not legitimate anyway. Let's put it that way. But the one that she did use has such a low percentage that it was a joke. So I'm saying all that to say that it is no coincidence that got brought back to the forefront of people claiming that they are quote native when indeed they're not. So just pay attention. Just pay attention to that. Okay. The other thing I wanted to discuss, and I see you 832. I'm coming, sweetheart. Other thing I wanted to discuss, just real quick to put the family, make you aware. Let's talk about these storms. Okay. I ran across some information, and then Brother Sean ran across some information that was even deeper than what I'm going to share. But this last hurricane that we had in Florida, right? Basically, I ran across some information where this one lady tracked the storm. So she went to their own official weather sites, and she was tracking the wind speeds of the storm. And the way the lady traced the storms, it clearly shows where it was planned, because the area that got hit by the hurricane, it jumped. Number one, it jumped. The speeds jumped like crazy big from with over a couple of minutes. And then, in addition to that, based on the speeds, it should have been a wider and bigger storm. So meaning it should have spread out a lot further and had more damage. But instead, it appeared that the storm was targeted to a specific area. Okay? And I've been running across the videos again in California along their coastline where they're having where they had those fires. Now they're giving warnings to the people in that similar area that the wind speeds are going to be really high, and that's going to cause more fires. And we've already talked about how people put out on YouTube the videos of them targeting those fires with those laser beams. So you can look both up what I'm talking about on YouTube. And it appears that they are trying to clear people off of these coastal lands. And then number two, they're probably just testing some weaponry. Okay, so I did want to bring that to the family's forefront. I thought I had documented that lady's video. If I find the lady's video, I thought I documented it. I'll share it with you all. I'll give you the name so you can go listen to it. But she did an excellent job, and she did such a good job that soon after she posted that video, they had the weather sites, the official weather sites that she had got those documented speeds off, they totally wiped out the data for those days. Okay, so that's just something for the family to be aware of, that they're trying to clear people off of certain lands, and it appears so far we're documenting in Florida, California, North Carolina, South Carolina. Not sure if it's going to be part of that Georgia coast. So something is going on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
They turned off the people's electricity in California, I think it was.
Yes, yes.
Because
that's
the so-called
one I'm talking about.
They turned off their electricity because of so-called wind speeds. So there won't be any fires.
But people went and checked the little wind speed guide, and the wind speed was only like 1 mile an hour, 5 miles an hour. That doesn't constitute high winds. So that lets you know that's the fuckery that's coming into play. And they're going to use that weaponry, that laser beam weapons, to start those fires again.
Yeah, but look who they're clearing off the land. So that doesn't compute. You know what I'm saying? Why would they do that to their own? But that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, sis, because some say it's because supposedly they owe it to China, and as far as being indigenous, I don't give a fuck what they owe to China. It ain't gonna happen. But others, say that it is because land has to be returned, and I don't know why. It's either that. It's either the China thing, lands have to be returned, or there's a bigger event coming from a storm perspective on those coastal lines. Okay, and some of the prophecy does say that the coastal lines are going to be flooded in the U.S., which has a lot to do with the shifting of Mama Earth, and we're going to get into that deeper next week when we do the show We Are the Aliens, because all of the land stuff, the prophecies, and a few other things will kind of all tie together. So I'll pause, Brother Sean. Do you have anything else to put on it before go ahead on, brother.
It could also be a combination of things. They got internal fighting going on. We don't know who live up there. I mean, as far as for the elites, we don't know who family members stand up there or who up there and hiding.
True that.
They're all being flushed out. But also when you have fires, then a flood, you had new life.
Yes, that's purifying. Yep. Absolutely.
It's a ritual.
Agreed.
But then
totally agree.
From a ancestral and spiritual perspective, how many elementals coming online? How many of our people that can bend water, air, fire, earth coming online?
Yep.
And they trying to take credit for it. They ain't got the power that they say they do. If they did, they'd have been wiped us out.
Indeed, which they can't.
Exactly.
They definitely can, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I would hope that we're broadening our consciousness enough to know that it's even deeper than color. So you're going to start to see that it's going to be all about vibration. And the biggest culprits are folks that have the melanated skin or black, because we are the originals. Okay, and all races, we seeded those races. Okay, so it's been a very, very long battle with I don't know how many cycles, where one group of melanated people against the other group of melanated people to control the realms. And one wants to keep the realm in a perpetual low state in order to institute slavery and control and to feed. And the other group wants a free realm which resonates on high vibrations. So next week when we do the show, Who Are the Aliens, we're going to start to talk about these different groups of beings and their origins and what realms they are from, and in the hope it will tie in together on where we are today, because the galactical events that we have had from 2012 up to now really, really astounding, and have really been accelerating very fast. Over these next 2 years, it's really finna be up off the chain. And we're going to discuss it next week. It's something that's been on my mind. I know I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks because I've had different thoughts on it. And then it just so happened I ran across some other information where the same person was right on the money what I had been thinking. They broke it down a lot more concise. So I'm going to be really excited to talk about that next week, because you will see just how important the land is and just how deep it really is. So with that said, let me go to Brother 832. Here we go. Peace and love, brother.
Rhonda, Sandra, my sisters from other misters.
Brother.
Feathers up.
Feathers up, brother.
Yes, sir, bro.
Sean, my brother from another mother, sitting on the throne on Mount Olympus.
Indeed, bro. How's it going?
All right, my brother. You know what? I got to tie this together, man, but I'm going to do a semi-movie review. Who wants to be Ebert? I'll be Siskel. Sister, Rhonda, have you checked out on American Gods yet? Because the motif is what I'm going to use to wrap up my commentary this week.
Yes. I'm waiting on season 2.
So you are caught up on all 8 episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
Let me throw a little teaser in there first and let you percolate on this. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say about Pocahontas. Do you remember the Bill Quist orgy scene? When they finally came out in the episode explaining the black backstory on the Queen of Sheba, they call her Bilquis, which is the Arab title for what is supposedly the love goddess motif of the story of Queen of Sheba. Now, they don't go into the details of what the real Queen of Sheba is supposed to be. But do you know that particular actress, Yetide Badaki, you know she's Nigerian?
Ah, okay.
So,
and I'm trying to remember
yeah,
that
so they use a
episode,
Nigerian.
Okay, you go ahead. Okay,
so they use a Nigerian. She's very dark-skinned, not quite as charcoal black as what I'm about to get to. In the orgy scene, if you remember, all the people liquefied into a black substance that worked its way back into her vagina, what they refer to in the series as the vagina nebula, right?
Yes. Now I remember.
So they all became jet cold black, carbonated and liquefied into a goo after that. I don't know if it was an Asiatic, because he looked part Asian, part Arab. The king that they said was an example of how many kings tried to topple the queen over the course of time. All right, that's one element. The other was, you remember the homosexual scene in the Arab context? The jinn. The god concept they were using from Arab were jinn, and they were both supposedly from Oman. And I find that very interesting because that's a kind of a small satellite country like the Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, the Arab Emirates, and Oman. Now, they never really discuss what Oman is, but they talked about the jinns originating from there 1,200 to 1,300 years ago. But at their excited, orgasmic state, if you remember, both of them became charcoal black, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Now you're making me go back. I'm going to have to watch a few of those episodes.
That's why I'm putting this as a teaser. I'm putting this as a teaser to let you know how these fraudulent liars. But I'm going to go and do the big picture with Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts. Now, the numbers you were looking for, they claim, and by the way, the actual geneticist or whoever this tester was, claimed he didn't have actual Native American DNA to do a comparison with. So he supposedly went to people in Colombia and certain other South American nations. Didn't say anything about the North American version, all right? Secondly, he implied it was from 6 to 10 generations, or 1/32nd, or 1/1024th. In other words, 1 out of 32 ancestors up into 1 out of 1,024. Can you say one drop rule?
Right.
Now, here's the scam they use on us with this Kunta Kinte shit.
Yep.
They go and imply that one African ancestor wipes out. Remember I said this to you a few weeks back about how can one, even if you find one so-called nigga in the woodpile, African that fell off a boat that comes and commingles with the indigenous aboriginal population, how is that one ancestor, 1 out of 32, up to 1 out of 1,024, which, by the way, that's 10 generations. If you use an average of 20 years between generations, that's 200 years ago. So if we're talking about from this moment in time, that is 1818, 200 years prior. What does that precede? 1830? Indian Removal Act?
Yes, right.
Andrew Jackson, who they used to call, I forgot what his nickname was, something like the Indian Killer, wasn't that it, Sean? He was called the Indian Killer.
Yeah.
He ran for office.
Indeed.
He was, in 1824, he had the most popular vote, but was not allowed to inhabit the White House. So he comes back in 1828, and guess who is hanging up in the Oval Office as his mentor for Agent Orange Julius? You see? And so all of this chicanery that he's pulling, if you remember in Dane Calloway's documentary, that famous clip of him talking about it, whatever that commission and board was, of that they don't look like Native Americans to me. Now, the way he juxtaposed it in his editorial clipping and his the way he compiled his documentary by putting those Mongoloid, Caucasoid, amalgamated $5 frauds, he wrapped them around the conversation of Donald Trump. But that was not who Donald Trump was talking about.
Right.
He was talking about the actual Native and Aboriginal American tribe that's in Connecticut. And do you know that they make almost the most amount, something like $1 billion a year with their casino operation? Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I knew that he was pissed because he wanted some type of license or something, right?
He wanted the tax
breaks. Okay.
Exactly, because remember, this guy is a fraud. He's a 5 or 6 time bankrupt individual. All he does is siphon money out of these businesses. Most of America does not understand Trump ain't built half of the shit that his name is on. He licensed his name to other people.
I just recently found that out, that most of the buildings, even in New York, that he doesn't own them. There's a licensing, and a New Yorker
and people
told
are
me
starting to strip. They're starting to strip him of those licensing.
Yep.
Now, as we tie all this together, I want to wrap this in a bow about what the American Gods is as a concept. This whole, because you've seen it now. The whole backstory is how did they get their God concept on our soil? If you remember, the very first one with the Vikings, which I can't wait to see how he's going to spin this lot, and all those arrows that, like from the movie 300, that descended down on their ass when they tried to get off the sands of that beach, they never show those people, do they?
They really don't, now that you mention it.
But is the message clear or not? How they got 1,000 motherfucking arrows hit one person simultaneously? Kind of like that movie in 300. They said our arrows will blot out the sun. So we didn't want these white supremacists, white nationalists invading Caucasoid demons from the first day. That's one. Two, all of these European God concepts, of course, we are talking about Europeans, the lying storytellers that they are. They have only one so-called black or African tale. That's the spider god, Anansi, played by Orlando Jones, whose primary power is deceit, deception. So they're going to flip the script and make us be personified as a liar. Then the story he's telling is only through slavery, right? Yeah. Because the scene was about him giving that speech. Speech on the slave ship. Then he eggs the slaves to burn the ship down. So you know what that means is that was their human sacrifice of them all dying in a pyrrhic fire of that magnitude that then allowed him, remember on the driftwood, the little spider that crawled up on the shore on the driftwood. As they show these panoramic examples in the Viking circumstance, they showed them literally at war with each other, just like in the movie 300, fighting, stabbing, cutting, beheading, stabbing each other's eye out. All these things are violent messages letting us know who these people always will be. Not only who they are, who they always will be. And then all these other motifs of all these other God concepts come from another European spin, whether it's from the Arabs, like the Jinn, or the Russian, or Vulcan. If you remember the Vulcan god, he had people worshiping him through gunfire, right? All these, that's the only reason why I'm excited about this show, whether it makes it through season 2 or not. It is laying it out there for us with some insights and some consciousness on what the true story is. But here's the final point. On all those motifs, if you notice, they lead up in the opening credits to what they would call either an eagle or a thunderbird on the top of the totem pole. Okay? So it means, even though we don't know it, metaphorically, symbolically, and spiritually, we are at the top, even though we're being forced to believe we're at the bottom. We were the first, always have been the first. So as it says in Scripture, Alpha and Omega, right, Sandra? So it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the ending. And one last part of the movie review, remember the Highlander? There can be only one. So as we go to the base of Statue of Liberty, you know, as I say every week when I wrap it up, the fire's hot, the coals are burning, the barbecue is smoking, your time is up, because your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. And I yield.
Okay, thank you, brother. Peace and love. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
I want to say something to all of that. I don't watch movies because I don't even have cable, but I kind of understand what he just said about everything, but they tell you who they are in the 2nd chapter of Ephesians of their New Testament book. They tell you who they are. And if our people would just take the time and read that, he just described everything in that movie that's in that scripture. Everything. Because it tells you they are the ones who are the sons of perdition. They were born as Gentiles in the flesh. That's what Ephesians says. And they did everything they were big and bad enough to do. That's that stabbing, killing, shooting, arrows, everything. They did it all because that's who they are. And the only thing that they gave them to keep them from doing that kind of stuff is Christ Jesus. That's what Ephesians says. And then, so that wasn't good enough for them because they were still bad. So they decided to come over here and take the covenant and the commandments from us. So that's all described in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter. And so they came over here and corrupted this land and these people, which is us, and we were on the top, just like he says, and we're still on the top, but they brought their Jesus or Christ here and taught us bad things. And that's what they say they did. And he said we were one people, now we're two. We were all far off, and now we're together. And that's what they tell you they did. So they're really, most people say the children of Satan or the devil. That's what it says in Ephesians.
Well, it's interesting. I would encourage everybody to watch American Gods, get caught up on that first season. Hell, I may go back and rewatch that first season, but it's very deep. It's all metaphysical, and it mixes historical events in there. Like he said, it's a lot of decoding that you have to do with it. But the premise of it is really these different gods fighting for position and power for the populace to worship them, in essence. And you'll see a scene where the gods meet up to try to discuss who's going to rule over what. Okay, so the point I'm making, and we're going to get into this deeper next week when we discuss who are the aliens, because the deeper premise is deeper than the system of white supremacy. Because at the end of the day, although that is what we are experiencing, that ain't shit compared to the broader picture of what was really, really going on. It's really control over the realm. Okay? It's gods against gods.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are an ancient god, there's no way in the fuck you're supposed to be thinking that a being that is younger than you has taken you down and overpowered you. That's what the biggest illusion was over these last 400 or 500 years. But that's not really the root of the issue. That was a spell placed upon our land in particular, and it perpetuated around the world. But we're particularly going to deal with the indigenous people on this land. So when I talk, now this is just me personally, I'm not trying to tell anybody else what to do. But when I talk about bringing it down, I'm talking about bringing it all down. White supremacy, that's a done deal. That ain't shit compared to the controlling of the actual realm. All of it will be brought down. And those that are the ancient melanated folks, these are the things that we are, the levels that we are supposed to be thinking on. As Brother Sean was stating earlier about the controlling of the weather, of the water bending. This is who are. But if we keep our consciousness on the level of what they did when they are the ones powerless in the grand scheme of things, it's going to take a lot longer for folks to get over that hump. So when we go into it next week, we're going to go realm by realm. And hopefully the picture will start to sink in why what is going on today is very, very important. Yes, it's important on the physical level with the white supremacy, woo. But grandly, on a universal level, it's important because it is the battle of the gods. This is a spiritual war.
Right.
So I'll yield in case somebody else want to put something on it. But I just want to put that in there as well because I don't ever want us to lose sight of that. Because at the end of the day, those that have benefited from the system of white supremacy, number one, most of them did not have the power to set the shit up. They did not have the experience to set the shit up. They come from ancestries of slavery. They were the first slaves on this land. So we have to be truthful with ourselves to really understand who and what the enemy really is. Okay, and we'll get into it a little deeper next week. Okay, last week we left off, we're going to get into ADRIP. Let me pull it back up. I I'm just going to go back over, since Brother Sean brought up about this doggone voting. So I'm on Article 11. No, is this Article 11, 10, 20? Article 21, I'm sorry. Because X is 10, right? Yeah, so 21. Okay, so this is right to autonomy or self-government. Indigenous peoples in exercising their rights to self-determination have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. 2. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and develop their own decision-making institutions. They also have the right to participate in the decision-making in matters which will affect their rights. They may do so directly or through their representatives in accordance with their own norms, procedures, and traditions. They also have the right and equal opportunities to assess and to fully participate and effectively as peoples in all national institutions and fora, including deliberative bodies. So I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it before I give my little 2 cents on the matter.
So what they're saying is, if you don't have any money, you out of luck. If you don't have any resources or any power or anything going for you, which they have taken great patience and pride in stripping us down to nothing. They done took our land, they done took our names, and so they're just patting you on the back and saying, oh, you got the right, but you got to find it. Oh, you have the right, but you have to make it yourself. So they're not really giving us anything because they have, but Mother Earth is returning it to us. Our ancestors are returning this stuff to us. And these storms, my son tells me all the time, you can't give them credit for everything. They ain't the ones doing this stuff. I believe the Most High is doing it. That's what we call it. So that's what they're saying. You have all the things you want if you have it already. Otherwise, you don't have anything. And our people need to stand up and realize that they're on the top, just like 832 says. We're on the top, and we're not the bottom. And feathers up. I wore my feathers. I be wearing these feathers.
I got too.
And these people are absolutely gone smacking crazy. I have so many people trying to talk to me and find out about me and just laughing, holding doors open for me. I'll say, what's wrong with these people? Have they lost their mind? But they know who we are. They know who we are. We don't know who we are. And that's what they took advantage of. And we need to wake up, get up, wake up, and rise up to the purpose that we were set here on this planet to do. And that is to take care of this planet that we were given guardianship over and not let them do it because they're stripping this thing down. So anyway, it's just what we need to do is know that we are the original of this planet because they know it. They've been knowing it. And nobody is surprised about it when we wear our feathers.
Indeed. Now, for me, what this section means, right to autonomy or self-government. Let me just clarify in general, because we talked about this last week, and I'm reading from the abbreviation is ADRIP. But the document is American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, and it's off the website NARF.org. Okay, now let's be clear. This document is, to me, it's not about what they are giving you, because they have nothing to give you. It is yours by birthright. I like better how Brother Sean put it in contents last week when he said that it was really put together for how their folks are supposed to be conducting themselves on this land as they are interacting with us. So let's be clear on what this document really is, okay? But you as Indigenous people, the purpose of me doing this show is for you as the Indigenous people to realize how much power that you really have. But you only have that power when, number one, you recognize who you are, and number two, you identify who you are. And that means that you have to recondition yourself not to participate in things that were never built for you, i.e., that corporate system, okay? And so for me, this particular article, Right to Autonomy or Self-Government, is supposed to be exactly that. You don't need their money to do what you're supposed to do to govern whatever you choose your nation to be. I'll take something just as simple as a neighborhood. Let's just start real small. Let's start very small. Let's start with your own neighborhood, okay? It does not take money, any more money than what you're already working with, to self-regulate and self-govern your own neighborhood, okay? But because our mindset is so scrambled and messed up, and not everybody, but for the most part, that can't even be done, okay? Where we don't even govern ourselves with codes in our own neighborhoods, and we rely on their particular corporate officers / police officers to come in and protect us, okay? So for me, those two clauses, it is more than them giving you something. They shouldn't have to give you anything to self-govern. If you are sovereign, you have to be sovereign all the way. And if you cannot govern with either a piece of paper, you all sit down and agree, this is how we're going to conduct ourselves, that's pretty fucking sad. If you can't sit down within your own neighborhood and elect a council or whatever and determine the rules on how you're going to run your particular community, that's pretty fucking sad. These are the conditioning of the mindset as an Indigenous people that we have to get back and put the white man shit aside. Start sweeping around your own doorstep first. Because again, I say, if they were to give every melanated person $1 million as I say this, do you think that's going to change the condition? Or is that just going to be a temporary fix? Because most are going to run back out and give it right back to that corporate facet because the mindset has not changed. Freedom starts in your mind. If you don't have it in your mind, if you don't have sovereignty in your mind, it doesn't matter what's on a piece of paper or what you think somebody's going to give you. It's breaking that cycle of bondage. And quite frankly, we shouldn't even have to read this on what your particular rights are as Indigenous people. It's not about what they're giving you. They can't give you shit that's, oh, you're already on your land. But we're going over it to make you aware that it does exist and to use it and apply it for yourself. within your own family. Teach your children who they are and how they need to conduct themselves, and then build out among your community to those that are resignating. So it's a lot of work that has to be done among the indigenous to truly, truly function holistically. So I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go on. 22. This is where we left off last week. Indigenous law and jurisdiction. 1. Indigenous people have the right to promote, develop, and maintain their institutional structures and their distinctive customs, spirituality, tradition, procedures, practices, and in the case where they exist, juridical system or customs in accordance with international human standards. The indigenous law and legal system shall be recognized and respected by the national, regional, and international legal systems. So I'll pause. Can anybody explain to me any body of indigenous people that have shared any type of judicial laws that can be used for our people? I'll wait. Maybe I may be missing something. I don't want to allow nobody. So I'm hearing crickets. I take that as a no.
Well, I'll say something. It's very small. The Moors started teaching the law and how to get around understanding what it means for you in law where you are. Mm-hmm. And I would say that, but then they turn around and say, stay out of their courts. But most of us go in their courts without us wanting to go in their courts in the first place. So if you learn, like, Black's Law Dictionary, we had a situation in the family where my son was quoting the Black's Law Dictionary where the Moors had, opened that door that we knew to get one and to use it and how to use it. And other family members was thinking it was Black Lives Matter, and we were saying racist things. But see, because most people don't understand that the law doesn't speak our language. It doesn't speak Cherokee. It don't speak Choctaw. It don't even speak English. They speak their own dialect that they done put out there to put us behind bars. So the Moors have taught us how to use that book, the Black Laws Dictionary, and other codes they've been giving us about what your residence is and your dwelling, your domain is, and all that kind of stuff, and how to understand it. But like I said, they turn around and say, don't use it, don't go into their courts. But we have to figure out how to get out of their courts because they target us. And I encourage anybody to use the etymology dictionary, and that's really helpful as well. And they talk about that in the Moors program as well. But they don't really tell us that we're the indigenous of this land. They say we're from Africa, and that's where they really go wrong. So, but they do some law. They do some law. I have to give it to them on that.
Yeah, I have to give them. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
They're the ones who taught them the law.
Yes.
The Moors wasn't sitting up trying to do us no favors.
No, they weren't.
They was trying to get their deals recognized. They was trying to get their treaties honored. And none of that has nothing to do with us Aboriginal people.
That's where I was going. Exactly.
They want you to get nationality packets and this, that, or the other, but ain't none of that shit ever worked in court.
No, it has not. That's right.
Look how many of they grand sheiks are sitting in jail right fucking now.
Really?
I have plenty of them in my friends list on Facebook. Niggas sitting in jail right now. Right now.
Not right, but rat. Yep.
Rat.
Yep.
Rat.
Rat. Yep. That's our language. Rat now.
Rat now.
I totally agree with you, Brother Sean. Go ahead. I didn't want to chew off.
I too much can't give them credit for nothing because all this is their fault. They was the ones coming over here first. We were battling with them for thousands of years before any so-called Caucasoid came along.
Right.
These battles ain't just start. We just recently lost. That's all.
Right.
But
right.
They ain't done nobody no favors.
Right.
I don't see it.
Well, you know, it's interesting because here's where I was going with it, and I paused because I wanted us to have this conversation, and I knew we would because that's just how brilliant you two are. But as far as the Moors, they are very, very good at explaining the common law side and the corporate side, and trying to guide people on how to navigate on the common law side and not put yourself under anyone's jurisdiction. Okay. Unfortunately, most of them haven't mastered it, and that's how they get locked up. But as Brother Sean said, that all of that whole code of law, all of that shit came with them from that European system. Okay, and the reason we as indigenous people keep getting tripped up because we keep trying to make the shit apply to us. That sentence that I just said, the indigenous law, not the common law of what the corporation really should be using. We know definitely not the corporate law, the indigenous law, meaning the laws that you set for you and yours. The indigenous law and legal system shall be recognized and respected by the national, regional, and international legal system. Okay, so if you are identifying yourself as indigenous to the land, then you by default do not fall under any of their jurisdiction. So we're not supposed to be following any of that. Number 3. I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
But they do try and make you subjects of Morocco.
Yeah, you mean the Moors? Yeah. Yeah, and somebody said, I don't know if that was you, Brother Sean, that the reason that came about is because brothers were trying to get out of their legal stuff, and this was back in the day, get out of their legal cases. Yeah, that's what I recently, and it could have been you that told me that the reason that whole Morocco stuff came into play is because brothers were trying to get out of their legal stuff, saying, you know, I'm a national.
Under your jurisdiction.
Right, I'm a national, you know, I'm not under your jurisdiction, woo, woo, woo.
It was that Sunday Act of 1883 when they were trying to, they were calling us all the same title, like Negroes and stuff like that. And the Moors got upset and they called on the Sultan. Well, the Sultan, you know, just stood up for them, and they signed that 1883 Sunday Act treaty with this government to say they're going to be good citizens as long as they're not called Negroes. So they got out of the title as what we are. They stopped calling them Negroes, and started calling them Moors. And then they in that Sundry Act, they agreed to be good U.S. citizens. But see, that's not what they tell the people when you go into their program. They don't tell you that they made a deal with the government, because they say in the program that we're part and parcel to this government. But they really are part of this government. And they don't really tell you the truth, because that Sundry Act is still in effect of 1883. I think that's in Carolina, South Carolina, I think it was, that act was passed. So, yeah, so they just wanted to get, because they mixed up the title of the 2,000 Moors that came here, I think on a Dutch ship, you know, as indigenous slaves or whatever. They came here, and then they mixed it in with our indigenous people. And then when we rebelled, they started calling the ones that went to the reservation, they called them Indians. The ones that fought them, our people who fought them, they called us Negroes. So that's how they distinguished who cooperated with them and who didn't. And of course, Negro is origins backwards. So it's a code. And you know, like in Texas, like when we fought them, you know, the West Coast, right now, we went over this before. When we fought them, we became Negroes. So since they couldn't distinguish us in color, the Moors decided they wanted to be titled Moors, like this is Morocco. Because
that makes a lot of sense. And I don't know for what reason, sis, you kind of got a little muffled there.
Really?
Yeah, I had to struggle to hear you, but oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, that's okay. But you was dropping really, really good information. So there you have it, family. So just to be clear, that Article 22 under Indigenous law and jurisdiction, that's not written for them to tell you what to do. That's letting you know that you as indigenous people have your own judicial system, your own customs, that you are not a part of their jurisdictional system. Okay, but where a lot of times we get ourselves caught up with, number one, thinking that the Constitution applies to us, thinking that voting applies to us, going up under someone else's title, and even the Moor stuff, and not to pick on the Moors, but it is what it is. When you are just supposed to claim who you are, indigenous to this land, and whatever your values and customs are as indigenous, that's what it is. And that's what you're supposed to be standing on. Okay? Now, unfortunately, we have to keep it real, because we haven't, as indigenous people, set up anything tangible as far as a judicial system. That makes it extremely, extremely difficult. Because whether or not, let's say, our people did commit a crime or they didn't commit a crime. In the case that they did commit a crime, meaning, and when I say crime, I'm not talking about statutes and codes. That's totally different. I'm not talking about no bullshit-ass traffic ticket and all of that. That's bullshit. That's administrative. Not talking statutes and codes. I'm talking that when someone of indigenous has caused harm to someone else or has damaged someone else's property, okay, we don't have a system for our folks to be dealt with on our own land. Okay, so this is how our people keep, another reason why our people keep getting caught up in their corporate system. But the sad part about it, just in general, our folks don't even know that we're not even under their jurisdiction, no way. And it's not because of what the Moors said or what anybody else says. It's by birthright. You're not under their jurisdiction. Okay, so I just wanted to point out, this is again Article 22 under Indigenous Law and Jurisdiction on, how we should be self-governing our own. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
I don't like the fact that they keep saying as recognized by them. Now that, to me, keeps falling up under that whole tribal recognition, federally recognized bullshit. If they recognize us having those rights, get the fuck off our land.
Well, that's the broader.
We can figure all the rest of that shit out on our own.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
We've been knowing how to protect our communities, but the people that protect our communities wind up doing more time than the niggas that's fucking up. So
totally agree.
If we don't have them interfering in shit, taking every goddamn thing, that's eliminating a lot of the reasons for crime right there. Because niggas can eat.
And I agree with you on that. But it starts with us recognizing who we are.
Exactly.
That's really the core of it.
Yeah, but what I'm getting to with that, as they say in there, they're supposed to implement programs to help with that. So, they're not supposed to do anything to hinder or obstruct.
Right.
So that means all this bullshit that's going on, they got to stop it. Whether we talk about the elections, the educational system, all that stuff, but they got to take all that shit up out of here. It's interfering.
Yep.
It's fucking up the land, fucking up the vibrational frequency here.
Yep.
We the only people that can heal the land, remember?
Yeah, that was what they said out the gate of this declaration.
So, obviously, if we're the only people that can heal it, your very presence here is fucking shit up. So, part of us healing it is showing you the fucking door. You can't be cancer-free if you still got cancer in your body.
Indeed. Indeed, brother. Okay, this is Article 23, Contributions of the Indigenous Legal and Organizational Systems. Indigenous peoples have the right to full and effective participation in decision-making through representatives chosen by themselves in accordance with their own institutions in matters which affect their rights and which are related to the development and execution of laws, public policies, programs, plans, and actions related to indigenous matters. Okay, that says a mouthful, but we know, once again, none of that is happening. Number 2, states shall consult and cooperate in good faith with the indigenous peoples' concerns through their own representative institutions in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adapting and implementing legislative or administrative measures, that may affect them. Okay, and then they do have a footnote, and that footnote says the state of Columbia breaks with consensus as regard to Article 23, paragraph 2 of the OAS Declaration of Indigenous People, which deals with consultation for obtaining indigenous. All right, so let me stop because that was a mouthful. Okay, first of all, just to put it in content, in case you all weren't with us last week, we read off this American Declaration of Rights of the Indigenous People. We're not just talking about North America. Okay, we're talking about all of the Americas. And just to recap, doggone it, I thought I had the link. OAS. Okay, good. That came up pretty quick. Just to recap, there's 35 independent states. Here are all of the states or all of the Americas that this declaration applies to. Antigua and Barbuda, Argentina, Barbados, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominica, Commonwealth of Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Grenada, Guatemala, Guyana, Haiti, Honduras, Jamaica, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, the Bahamas, Commonwealth of Trinidad and Tobago, United States of America, Uruguay, and I'm probably not pronouncing that one right, and Venezuela. Okay, so this American Declaration, so let's be clear, we're not just talking about North America. We're talking all of the Americas, which what I just read that embodies entirely. Okay, so none of this is happening across the Americas. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. So this particular clause where it says when disputes cannot, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I done jumped. States shall consult and cooperate in good faith with the indigenous peoples concerned own representative institutions in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures that may affect them. So that footnote that I read, the state of Colombia, is concerning Colombia. Okay, so just to be clear. Okay, so I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory again what is supposed to be happening, but as Brother Sean said, the ultimate is we don't have to worry about any of that when the colonizers get up off the land. It would be a moot point, although we would still have to organize and self-govern as a people. All right, so the next one, 24. Article 24, treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements. Oh, and before I go on, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis. I have another point.
I just want to say a little thing here. When you say all these other states, I want to bring in Colombia, Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln was supposed to be the Emancipation Proclamation, which is garbage, and then he was supposed to colonize the people, which was to return them to the lands that they took them from. And what was brought out in some of the studies I found is that stole Indians or American indigenous folks from Colombia and other islands and shipped them up here and told them they came from Africa.
Yep.
So when Abraham Lincoln was to sign the colonization bill, it would have told the story where they actually got these people from. They went even in so far as to steal people from New Zealand and Australia, and those
I didn't know they went that far.
Yes, to do the sugar in the from here over there to do the sugar plantations. And I was looking at the New Zealand people who look just like us, and they were put into slave plantations. I think it was New Zealand and Australia. Well, I think it was New Zealand. But, you know, they all the same people. But they were put on sugar plantations to work the fields. And they came to these lands, and they kidnapped people to work over there. So
that
some of the
makes
people,
sense.
So some of the people who are there were kidnapped from here and taken there to do their sugar plantations.
So that's why some of them have the bushy afros.
Exactly.
Okay. That what you said makes a lot of sense, because I noticed some of the differences in the looks. Because you have the Aboriginal Australian / New Zealand, that they look closer to the Asian Indian, don't they? The ones with the straight hair, they look closer to the indigenous Asian Indian.
Like in India.
Right, like in India. Thank you, sis, to be clearer. Like in India, right. Versus you do have a group of people that they still wear them afros to this day.
Yep, they were kidnapped.
That have a little bit more of our features. You could still see the Indian-looking / Australian features as well, but now that makes sense what you're saying. Now that makes sense, because it was the transport of folks from the Americas, I'm assuming off of the islands, that they were doing the sugar cane on the islands, so they were taking over there to start up production on the sugar canes over there. That makes sense.
Yep. I saw it in a documentary, so I said, wow.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Only thing I wanted to... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
They never honored a treaty in their existence.
No.
And they talk about treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements. So what are they saying? Have arrangements been made, or they waiting for us to offer them another deal? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, can I email you and let you know?
I ain't received no email. I ain't received no damn email. I haven't received one.
All I'm saying is, if they saying that, you know, they want to, everything is just
fluff. With
them still here.
Right.
One of these documents is talking about them getting gone.
Right. When I'm going to have my stuff packed. Like when you putting somebody out. And you like, okay, I give you, 60 days to get on your motherfucking feet. And then you got to be gone. So, no, totally agree. 1000% agree, Brother Sean. And it's interesting because as I was reading this section on legal organizations and systems, and when it talk about how we as indigenous people concerned through our own representative institutions, blah, blah, etc., is why it is very important as indigenous people who we co-sign as representing us. You see what I'm saying? It's very motherfucking important. And that's how we have been fucked over and taken advantage of also. Because we have put our faith in others that look like us, that supposedly and allegedly had our best interests at heart, and they eating out of the same pot as the oppressor. And if we sanction the shit, then, they like, oh, well, shit, they good with it. So that's just another thing to just put out there, too. Especially as folks run around talking about go vote for this one and yo vote don't. Bruh, sis, I don't want nothing to do with that shit. I want it gone. Get the fuck on with it.
The vote don't count anyway. But I want to bring up a point. Now, there's old slave pictures and just artwork, and it would show a melanated man standing up talking to melanated people, but it'll show the European and his family sitting there listening. So I found that was interesting, and I was wondering what he's saying so interesting that the European was in there with the melanated man listening to him preach. But the truth of the matter is, they said when I was in school, they killed the people who learned how to read the Bible. But I'm saying that ain't true, because they didn't mind that melanated preacher standing up there talking to the people.
Right.
So our preachers has taken that so-called Gentile approach and tell our people that's who we are. And we are sinners saved by grace and all this kind of stuff. And they've used our people as the mouthpiece to change our culture. They've used them.
Agree with that.
And that 501c3
bring it home, sis.
Is an agreement that they made for taxes not to tell you the whole truth.
That's right.
And I said that who you are as the original people. And another thing, too, I understand from some documentary that I was always wondering why they lynch certain people and didn't lynch others. Because they would get people on the way home from work, and it ain't always about making no pass at no European.
Right, white women and all that crap, right.
It wasn't. They were telling the people who they really are. And when they found out that somebody was telling the people that they're the original people of the land, this is what I heard, that's when they roasted them and hung them and castrated them and was challenging their gods to come and get them. Because there was rogue, we have always been rogue, some of us, who would tell our people, hey, listen, you're not that person that they say you are.
Right.
But they would hang them. So we don't have those codes anymore in the north, up here in the west. But, they still have some of that stuff back down in the south, because they just hung a man about last year or something, and they come talking about he hung himself with his hands tied behind his back, of course. So this stuff still happens. But people are giving their all. That's the point. People are giving their all to bring you the truth of who you are, and the other ones are getting tax-free benefits to lie to you.
Getting paid, yeah.
Getting paid to lie to you.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up both of those points about the preachers were used to bring the message to the people, and they are up under that 501c3 covenant, which rolls up to the Vatican. Okay? So when we talk about getting the land to where the fuck they supposed to, let's start with what that all means. Number one, the Vatican was the one that put out the decree that they own all the lands and all the peoples. Specifically, North America still rolls up to the crown of England, which rolls up to the Vatican. Okay? So that's how deep this shit is. So any preacher that is up under that 501c3, and you don't have to be up under them now. Let's be clear. You can start you a church and not be up under no 501c3, but people do it, like Sis said, for the tax benefit. And the ones that are at that multi-millionaire status, they're in the brotherhood, and they better fucking follow the code, or they gonna snatch everything from them. Okay, so that those things that were going on, and the violence of folks speaking up saying, no, you are indigenous to this land, was another reason why the information went underground and was hidden, and why our ancestors did not push the fact to tell you who you really are. Specifically, when we had Brother Canyon on the show, who wrote the book about the 101 facts about the Black Indians, he specifically said that he grew up and his family told them who they were, but they knew to keep it close to the vest. And for you youngins, close to the vest means don't be running your motherfucking mouth. That's what that means. That's an old school term. But they knew, they were taught, this is who you are. You are indigenous to this land. You are who they are calling the Indians. And they still practice some of the cultures, some of the things that our ancestors used to do. And he had his little moccasins from a baby on, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so very, very good point, sis. And us as melanated people, indigenous to this land, it's time for you to wake up and stop having people speak and represent you when deep down inside you don't even know what they're representing you for. Just like Dr. King said towards the end that he led his people into a burning building. Now, whether or not he always knew he was leading folks into a burning building is a different story. But the point that was being made is we were the indigenous to the land anyway. So that whole facade about civil rights, what the fuck you fighting for some rights on your own land, basically, and pretty much is what Brother Sean is still saying on this particular call. You don't have to fight for any rights on your shit. Okay, so, all right. So we're on section 5 now. What page is this? Page 11, social, economic, and property rights. Okay, Article 25. Traditional forms of property and cultural survival, right to land, territory, and resources. All right, y'all, here we go. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual, cultural, and material relationship to their lands, territories, and resources, and to assume their responsibilities to preserve them for themselves and their future generations. 2. Indigenous people have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired. Number 3. Indigenous people have the right to own, use, develop, and control the lands, territories, and resources that they possess by reason of traditional ownership or other traditional occupation or use, as well as those which they have otherwise acquired. Number 4. States shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands, territories, and resources. Such recognition shall be conducted with due respect to the customs, traditions, and land tenure systems of the indigenous peoples concerned. Number 5, indigenous peoples have the right to legal recognition of the various and particular modalities and forms of property, possession, and ownership of their lands, territories, and resources in accordance with the legal system of each state and the relevant international instruments. The states shall establish the special regimes appropriate for such recognition and for their effective, demarcation or titling.
Demarcation.
Okay, demarcation. I knew I wasn't pronouncing that right. Or titling. Okay, I'll pause in case y'all want to put something on it so I can get a sip of water.
You already know. Demarcation, that imaginary line. Okay, so what do they mean by traditional? Traditionally owned. Considering y'all stole the lands and documented it, you know what families own what.
Right.
So how are we supposed to prove that? I mean, then again, through your system, through their system. States shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands. From who?
Right.
Their citizens that they know believe, they citizens and militia groups that they armed very well and pissed off.
Yep.
They already said they wasn't going nowhere. Now, the whole protection thing. We at war, and we still can't defend our goddamn land. They trying to give it back to us, but we can't even protect it. So, again, they figured that they need to be here to, help us protect it. Let me see. Modalities and forms of property, possession and ownership of their lands, territories, and resources in accordance with the legal system of each state. In this case, they're talking about the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They ain't talking about California and Ohio and Georgia and that stuff and other.
Right. Right.
The state shall establish the special regime. Ain't this corporation notorious for removing regimes?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I missing the word?
No, they do it on the regular around the planet.
I mean, to me, they still in control. I mean, but they just saying, okay, we'll let y'all run around in a little certain section because if they give back the land that was traditionally owned by our peoples, that's all the sweet spots stay in.
Right.
So, I mean,
right.
Where they going to go? I mean, what they going to do? I know they're supposed to be leaving, but according to this paperwork, they don't plan on leaving. I mean, if it's all about us having our land and resources and being able to profit from it, this, that, and the other, you folks go into hotels and pay. Y'all tourists.
Right. Right.
Pay for your visa, your green card, and all this type of shit. Take your ass back to TSA and let us check you before you come in.
Right. Right.
I mean, if we don't do it right, let's do it right. We built this shit. All the ideas and everything is ours. We know this. So why do you think we need the other fucking governors when we created every fucking thing?
Right. We don't. And you know, it's interesting when you bring up, you know, they have all of the sweet spots, because I'm again thinking about that the coastal lands that they covet so well, and that shit is just it's jumping off on the coastal lands. So this is all, it's just all going to be very interesting. I want to bring up the definition of demarcation. I'm in the etymology online dictionary. So demarcation, a noun, act of marking off limits or boundaries. 1737 from Spanish, that's about right. Linea de demarcación, or Portuguese. Name of the line laid down by, I keep telling y'all this, I can't fucking make this up. Name of the line laid down by Pope Alexander the Sixth on May 4, 1493. Dividing the, and then that's what it stops at. So then you go to verb, demarc. So demarc means to mark off, fix the limits or boundaries of. This came from 1650s abstract. And then demarcate is a verb that came 1816. Mark off from adjoining lands or territories. A back formation from demarcation. Okay, so I'm saying all that to say, I'm going to go back and read that sentence again. So now you have the etymology of that word demarcation, and pay attention to when it came into existence. It came into existence when they was snatching our shit.
You know, that's how they took Texas. They took Texas by changing the lines, the boundaries, and say that those guys, those Americans, were killed on the American side. And that's what caused that war and the Battle of the Alamo. They start boundary marking.
Okay.
And rearranging the boundaries, the demarcation lines. They changed them. It's like that chief said when she woke up, she was in another country. Every time she was
in Louisiana, because it was Florida to her. What she say, West Florida? That's what she said.
And every time she woke up, she was someplace else because they were doing that mess. And like you pointed out, we had agreed upon areas that we all stayed in tribally. But they came in and started making their demarcation lines.
Exactly. So that part of them on number 5, the right to legal recognition of the various particular modalities and forms of property, possessions, and ownership of their lands, territories, and resources in accordance with legal system of each state and the relevant international instrument. The states shall establish. Okay, well, if it's my shit, what the fuck I need you to establish anything? The special regimes appropriate for such recognition and their effective demarcation or titling. So then, first you're going to say You recognize it's my shit. Okay, I don't need for you to recognize it's my shit. But okay, you recognize, and I already had recognized that this is my shit. Okay? So, how does your involvement about my shit comes into play? Telling me, number one, how to divide up my shit, because that's what demarcation means. And then for you to put together a regime to recognize my shit and to divide it. Oh, okay then. Okay. All right. So that's all of that's in number 5 on social, economic, and property rights. Okay. So if we pay attention to the ones that did do deals with the corporation, because it wasn't even a corporation at that point. So let's back up, because it really didn't become a corporation, into the late 1700s. You want to go 1773 through 1776. Okay, at that point, before then, we're talking about these other different nations. So, the French, Spain, and then the Crown, or English motherfucking raggedy stinking asses. They were the ones that initially came in under the orders or the protection of the Pope. Because as I read back in the definition of the etymology dictionary of demarcation, that was based on his orders, and I had just told you previously before that he had put orders that he owns all the land and the people. They had already started dividing stuff up. And just as Brother Sean said that there's a lot of infighting going on now, that's exactly what happened back then. When folks came over to the Americas, the different nations, and started profiting and doing real well, then their other people or their other nations started coming over here, warring with them over our territory. And the boundaries kept being redrawn. And if you want to stick specifically to the U.S., I would encourage people to go online and start pulling the land boundaries and land charters of each particular state. And they give you the history of when England came in. You'll see very little information, like, for example, in the South, when Spain had South Carolina, you'll see, like, the transfer over from Spain to England. And you'll see where the King of England issued the charter. And then they start dividing up the lands. And then they even mapped them out, y'all. You can even go and look at the map. And you'll see on the map Indian Territory. That's what they're fucking referring to. Okay? Where, okay, now we still gonna have these particular areas, but this gonna be your territory. Okay? So that's what they're really saying in that particular clause. Okay. All right. Let me move on. But that's not what we're shooting for. Let's be clear. Because you don't have, we don't need them to tell, number one, who the fuck are you to divide my shit up?
Well, we got to do something, I think, be honest with people. It started out melanated popes.
Absolutely. Thank you, sis. It had to be melanated popes.
And then the European popes, I guess, took them down. I don't know how they got in place. But it was melanated people who started that stuff. And they call that the dam diversus, when they took somebody's skin off their back and cast a spell and wrote the fact that they took into their consideration all this planet. Everything belongs to the Catholic Church. But they had to cast a spell to do that. And they used somebody's skin to do it.
But somebody had to teach them how to do that, right?
Yeah, somebody did.
Exactly. Somebody. I see you 6, 7, 8. I'm coming to you, sweetheart. Absolutely. Somebody had to teach them how to do that. And when we talked about the first slaves in the Americas, specifically what we're now calling the United States, and we brought you the information that it was really the white Europeans that they brought over here as slaves. And I told the white Europeans who they need to be hollering at to get their motherfucking due, because they kidnapped some of them too. Okay, they kidnapped them from England, so they walking around, and if you didn't have any connection, they just kidnapped them, brought them the fuck over here, and made them slaves. They were calling it indentured servitude, okay? And I said, and I still say, this is why this shit is deep.
They call it, what they call it, impressing? They call it impressing. I think that's the word they used to use for when they kidnapped people to get into the military, on those military ships. Yeah, they used to call it, I think that word was impressing. And they started passing laws, but they had impressed thousands of people to be military people on those ships. Just people, everyday Europeans that's walking around, like you said. That's what they used to do. They just kidnapped them.
Exactly. So what that means is for the the Caucasian whites in North America, if your family was over here in the 'll put it this way, all the way up into the 1900s, early 1900s, that shit was going on with slavery. You are descendants of your history here started as slavery. Okay? That means you are owed reparations. And that's where the game gets fucked up. You're owed reparations to be back in your homeland. And the Crown of England and the fucking Vatican owes you reparations.
Yep.
Okay? The Vatican owes the world, the indigenous world, the people of the world, they owe us for the illegal use of land, for destroying the land. And in our case, in the Americas, the French, the Spanish, and motherfucking stinking ass England owe as well, and the U.S. corporation. Okay, so let me bring in 678. 678, your line is open.
Good evening, Rhonda. This is Dorier from Chicago. I just wanted to say good evening to everyone, and I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yes, I can.
I wanted to share my story of what happened around July 2017. July 2016. Let me back up. I have a friend here from Chicago. He'd be on the line. His name is Jade, and I know you've talked to him several times. But anyway, he had been into American Nationals with the right to travel, so I decided to go ahead and do the American Nationals right to travel. Anyway, that was in 2016. So, to make a long story short, he'd been in it for 4 years on the right to travel, so he got some tickets. So 3 of us decided to go to court with him just to support him. So it was just to support him. So it was me, Romulus, Keturah, and Jay. It was 4 of us in court. And I had a little small recording device. And so 2 hours into the court, in traffic court downtown at the Daily Center, Chicago, I got caught with the recording device. So the sheriff came and raised my paper up and snatched it. And he was like, Judge, she's recording you. And I stood up and I hollered. I said, you give me back my recording. So he gave it to the judge, so-called judge, administrator.
Right, administrator, right.
But anyway.
Right.
So anyway, so she was like, have a seat. I'll get with you in a minute. Now, of course, Jade is the one that got the ticket, so they have no record of me. So anyway, she pointed to me and she said, come here for a minute. I stood up there. She said, what's your name? I said, my name is, I'm a living flesh and blood being woman. You ain't got no jurisdiction over me. Can I please have my recording device back? She was like, again, ma'am, what's your name? I said, again, I'm a living flesh and blood living being. You don't have jurisdiction. Can you please give me my recording device back? And so then she's like, she looked at me and she said, you know what, ma'am? That's just like bringing a gun into my courtroom. And so I'm looking at this
wow.
Judge, and I looked at her and I said, I was just totally shocked. When you say something crazy, I look like you. I looked at her. I said, what does that got to do with the cost of tea in China?
Right.
I said, you're sitting up here pillaging and robbing these people over fraudulent red light camera tickets, stop signs, all this. I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. She held her head down. I said, look at you. You can't even look me in the eye. And so then this guy to the right of me handed her a piece of paper. I said, what are you doing? And what is your name? Oh, I ain't telling you my name. You ain't telling nobody your name. And so I asked, I said, what are you doing? And she started writing. She said, people of the state of Illinois versus Jane Doe. Confiscation of recording device, according to statute something, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, just going to try to put you up under jurisdiction.
So she gave it to me, and I, got it and sat back down, and then Jay, she heard his case. And so then after that, all four of us got up and we walked out. So she gave me a contempt of court confiscation of recording device. Now, so, they Moors, and I'm trying to, hey, I'm trying to follow them. I'm doing, So anyway,
right.
So she continued into another courtroom with another judge, the same as she transferred Jay's case. Now, I'm not on the record.
Right.
I went to the other courtroom because I'm trying to get my recording device because I already had the Supreme Court decision that said that we do have a right to record in court and that you can record in audio in public places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really wanted my recording device back. And so when I went the second time in front of the judge, I said, can I get my recording device back? He was like, they got you down for contempt of court. So I'm just studying. I was like, contempt of court. Is it civil contempt or criminal contempt? He said, it's quasi-criminal.
Oh,
I said, okay, can you please point out the injured party in this courtroom, sir, and a witness? He said, the injured party is the people of the state of Illinois. I said, the people of the state of Illinois is a corporation. He turned red and ran out the courtroom. And me and Jay looked like, okay, what does that mean when they run out the courtroom? But I was just learning. I didn't know that meant. I should have said, you know what? The judge has left the courtroom.
Right, he abandoned the bench.
Case is dismissed. But I was like, I didn't know. I was like, when is he coming back as? The chief, the judge? Because this never happened. And me and Jay looked and we couldn't figure out what to do. So we just stood there. So he came back 3-4 minutes later. And he said, this matter is continued to September 28th. Get out of my courtroom. Gave me the court order, so I sat back down next to Jay. 5 minutes later, the sheriff came over there. He said, I think that the sheriff wants you to wait outside. The judge wants you to probably wait outside the courtroom on your friend. So I stepped outside the courtroom and waited on Jay. So September the 28th, I'm like, forget that court recording device. I needed it because they had 1,000 hours. I'm like, they can have it. I'll just go to the Walmart and give me another one. However, I did not know that if you didn't show, they put out a warrant. They didn't know my name. It's the people of the state of Illinois versus Jane Doe. Now I'm going through with this. So I wrote the judge a letter, the administrator. I said, look, I apologize, because she was training somebody that day. I guess I probably embarrassed her. Somebody, she ought to be ashamed of herself. How did she sleep at night? So, I apologize. I said, look, I apologize for kind of getting off the handle, but can I please get my recording device back? Because here goes a copy of the Supreme Court decision saying that we do have a right. The same statute you used in my court order. I gave her my name because, I didn't feel no pain. I was like, that's the same statute. We got a right. This is our constitutional right. I said, and plus, here go a copy of the motu proprio saying that all of you guys are criminals. So please get my recording device back. So anyway, what they did was that was in July. September 28th, I didn't come. They put a warrant out, which I wasn't aware of, till 7 months later, February. I was driving my brand new car down the street on my right to travel. I got stopped. Now, American National, they charge like $5,000 now. They are really some criminals, really now. The right to travel. I don't know if you've been on ampc.org, but so anyway, to make a long story short, I got arrested February 14th, Valentine's Day. They said I had a warrant out for my arrest. The bond was $5,000. This is February. They took my car, my brand new car. At present, today is October. I got arrested. My sister paid $500 for my bond. Me and Jay went to court the next day. They didn't have court because, they don't have no record of me. So they staged it. Me and Jay looking like they had court and all of that. They staged and everything. And everybody left out and they switched judges. And then the sheriff came in the door. 5 of them blocking the front door, and 5 of me and Jay, the only one in there looking like, what the hell is going on? So they like, the people of the state of Illinois versus, they know my name now, Yvette Vine. So I'm supposed to be for this warrant that my sister bonded me out. So as soon as I stood up there, I said, you do not have jurisdiction. She said, I know, man. We just going to continue this matter for 90 days. I said, no. I'm just telling you, you don't have jurisdiction. He said, I know, man. We'll just talk about that in 90 days. He said, let me just put you down for 90. We'll talk about that. And then the prosecutor to the right of me had a folded piece of paper and reached out and handed it to me, and I grabbed it. It was folded. Soon as I touched that piece of paper, he said, this is another charge thrown on you. And I don't even know if he said it, threatening a public official. All the white sheriff sergeants, 5 of them from the front door, 5 of them from the back door, came swarming in. And 5 still standing in front of the podium with this administrator, swarmed in, grabbed me, threw me in the back of the judge's chamber, put handcuffs on my ankles, handcuffs on my stomach, handcuffs on my wrist, talking about another charge has been thrown on threatening a public official. I said, who is that? Talking about threatening the judge. They took me down there to Maywood, Illinois. I pleaded the 5th. I ain't got nothing to say. I pleaded the 5th. And they was like, sign this paper. I didn't know that when you plead the 5th and you say, well, where are my rights? They said, tell them to read your rights. When they read you your rights, you have a right to remain silent. I wasn't aware that you would have to sign anything. So these detectives read me my rights, and then they said, here, sign this. And like a dummy, I'm sitting up there reading my rights, and I'm signing it. But what it does, it reads your right, and at the end it said waiver of all rights. To make a long story short, they took me back to jail the next day. Now, I just got out, the $500. They took me back to jail on threatening the judge, saying I threatened her because I told her to give me my recording, and she wouldn't, and I told her that I would sue her. I did. I said, for the motu proprio, I said that if you're not immune anymore, so I will file a claim, and it will get you in your personal and private capacity for snatching my recording device. I didn't use profile language. I'm not like you, Ron. I'm not using profile language. I don't go. And they got me, and I'm still under house arrest since February. They got me under house arrest. They threw a legal charge on me, and I'm fighting the case. And I'm following like, oh, okay, let me do this. Oh, I'm listening to the Moors. Oh, do this. Do an affidavit of corporate denial status. I did that. Oh, do an affidavit of sworn, and I'm doing the affidavit to the prosecutor for them to answer. I'm doing all that. Then I did executive. They not paying no attention to nothing I put in the record. I'm an indigenous Moors and all of that. And then I found out last week. So I'm digging myself deeper and deeper in the hole. So I'm about to wind up like all the sheep in jail. You know, that's why I'm like, why they not acknowledging nothing I do? Found out about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that the Moors are a corporation and they list you as citizen, and they got you down here in Chicago. If you're sovereign, that means that's a crime in their court.
Yep.
And I was so upset. And
I'm sorry,
I'm gonna make sure that I tell the judge, no, I ain't no more. I'm a indigenous. I'm just gonna say I'm a original, indigenous, autochthonous American.
Yeah.
Take that Moor stuff out of there. I am not no citizen.
And
the best part about it, nobody told me that the Moors were a corporation. They didn't tell me. All of my little so-called friends that the Moors is a corporation, it's a nation, and you're considered a citizen. They went from U.S. citizen to Moor citizen.
Yeah, okay.
And everybody locked up, and they know everybody locked up. But you said do this. Ain't nothing working.
No.
And so I just had to go on and say, you know, I'm like, where's the Moors from? I asked my friend, turning ill, because he 80-something from Spain, Africa. I'm not from no damn Africa.
Right.
I'm not from Africa. I'm not from Spain. So I'm just really upset that they didn't sit up there and kidnap me and arrested me twice. Now, it's all on recording device. Because, see, when you got, I know that I'm going to get compensated very well at the end because, I'm going under the color of law. You get me under the recording device. Now, you sit up there and change it from a recording device, and 8 months later throw another charge on me talking about threatening a public official. And then you have a complaint where a detective signed as a witness, I'm Detective Cluskey signing on behalf of Diane. What kind of message? I mean, they just, if you see the file that they got, it's straight up fraudulent. But they don't care because they figure they got this ankle bracelet on my.
And just to recap, and just number one, I want to just say I'm sorry, so sorry that happened to you. But just to recap, this all started because you were sitting in court with the tape
downtown in traffic court.
Now you got charges up on you, and whoever you were studying with, or I don't know if you were a part of a nation, where's the sheikh or whatever you call them of that particular temple? Weren't they supposed to be coming in representing you?
Well, if you sign this declaration, they say, oh, sign this. The Moors are getting people out of jail. So sign this. So when I'm reading it, because I'm starting to read now because I was just doing anything. So I'm starting to look at 3 dictionary, the etymology, reading everything, looking up everything, because I got myself in this hole. So I can't blame it on the Moors or nothing because I blame it on myself because I didn't look under the dictionaries. I got all the black laws. So look, don't take nobody's word for nothing.
Exactly.
That's right.
Look under the dictionary and see what everything is. And so on this declaration where they said the Moors is going to take everybody, rescue everybody, but they have started getting people out of jail. But on this declaration it says, I pledge my assets. I said, I'm not signing them. So they want you to pledge.
Right.
They want you to pledge your estate or whatever they call it, chattel, whatever you want to call it. Read the money. They want you to play. I said, I'm not doing that. So, you know, it's really sad that I'm on an ankle bracelet, all starting off with a recording device from July 2017. On visiting a person in court, they have no recollection, no record of me downtown at the Daily Center. They didn't put shackles on my legs. Now, thank God Jay was with me because he truly would be a witness. My stomach, you know, and I was too unlawful arrest. You put out a fake warrant. That warrant they put out wasn't even a warrant. They don't even have no affidavits with it. Everything is just fake what they do. Chicago is really, really just has, they just straight up in criminal mode. And I'm just going to say, look, when I go to court now, he said, I want you to see a psychiatrist. So I went to go see the psychiatrist, but I never mentioned nothing about, I didn't threaten no judge because I know I didn't. I know they set me up. I know she probably got mad because I embarrassed her, but I didn't use profound language. You know, I just speak my mind. I didn't threaten her. I have a right to sue. I can sue the president if I want to. You have a right to sue anybody you want to. And there's nothing wrong with saying I said I'm going to file a claim. Per the most appropriate, and it will get you in your private capacity. I have a right to sue, and I have a right to record and video. And they are just straight up like you. I guess you ain't got no rights. You don't have none. But I know I got rights, and I know that my being in they kidnapped me for 8 months
wow.
It's Chicago. I mean, it's not even such thing as traffic court. You don't even have a record of me in the Daily Center. You stole my recording device. They just took it. Come on, with some signs. I didn't see any signs. But Jay said it was a sign, but I didn't see any. But okay, then, regardless, those are their rules and policy. That's not the law.
Wow. I mean, all of that's just, all I can say, sis, again, I'm sorry that happened to you, but thank you for being honest and brave enough to bring your experience on the show so people can get a lot out of it and beware, and you gotta know what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing when you're stepping across their threshold.
You're on their
in
vessel.
In their jurisdiction.
Can I say it's maritime law? You're
exactly.
on their vessel. You're no
yep.
longer on the land.
Yep.
You are in their jurisdiction. That's your admiral of the ship, so to speak.
Yep.
And if you do that, they put you in the brig. So,
yep.
but you could possibly get free of that brig by using your trust bond with your CUSIC number. That's all they want is money.
That's what they getting. They already getting money. They've been getting money since day one.
They're getting it anyway. They're getting it anyway.
From my Social Security now, I got my CUSIC number. They do a constructive trust every 45 days. The reason why they got me on this ankle brace is because they get money every 45 days. But the bottom line, they've been getting money. The bottom line is that it's sad. It's been since February, 8 months, and this monitor is bringing radiation through my body, and they need to remove this because what they're doing, I know that I was putting all them papers in and stuff, I'm a moron, but okay, I made an error. It's not a crime. Please forgive me. I rescind on that. I'm just an original, indigenous, autochthonous American woman. How about that? Forget that more stuff. Just forget it. Look, I'm alive. I'm not a corporation. I don't have a name. That ain't my name. I don't have a name. I'm not representing. No, I'm not representing. My sister, my family hired an attorney, paid $2,500. He robbed him. Then he wanted another $2,500. And I'm like, he ain't doing nothing. I wasn't even supposed to get no attorney. So the first day I fired him. Then my family started crying. Tell me, oh, you going to jail? He's scaring them. So I let him go ahead and put him back on there and stuff. But now he terminated his own self August 1st. So now I'm on my own. So I'm talking to the judge and my sister in the courtroom last Thursday. So I'm sitting out here talking, and I'm telling the judge, I'm like, well, look, Lauren, what's the definition of representative? And my sister in the courtroom, out the window, they crying, and the sheriff whispering in my ear, don't call him. He's the judge. He's the honor. Don't call him there. I'm like, Lauren, he didn't complain. He was just talking to me and everything. I called him Lauren.
Wow.
And
well,
that's his name, and that's what I called him, and he didn't have no problem with it, but everybody else do. He's an administrator. They robbing my estate, and you put these charges on me, and you didn't sit up there and then force me to be this corporation. I'm just not finding out a name. He's like, what's your name? What's your name? I don't have a name. How about that? I don't have a name.
Mm-hmm.
But you can call me this. So so what happened was when the psychiatrist did the test, I said, look, I'm not competent, not because I'm mental. I'm not competent because my education is that of a second grade. Because, see, I got my master's, but, United States education, when you get your PhD, is that of a first or second grade. So United States education ain't what people think it is. But,
It's
I told the psychiatrist, she said,
indoctrination.
I got PhDs and stuff. I said, well, girl, you can forget it. They're paperless, okay? So the psychiatrist really, when I first came in, she really thought I was crazy. But at the end of the 2-hour session, she see that I knew what I was talking about and that they set me up. I didn't have to say they set me up. It's very apparent. How you going to take a recording device and now you're going to change it to a threatening a public official, a felony? They didn't take a misdemeanor. Now I'm facing a felony. An ex-felony over a complaint, not that the judge signed, but a complaint that some detective signed on behalf of the judge.
Right.
Straight up fraud.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you, sis, for sharing your story. I truly appreciate it, and
And I'm not trying to bash the more. Don't get me wrong. I should have looked up the stuff myself. I should have seen it was a corporation.
Experience. Wow. Well, thank you so much, sis, and peace and love. Whew, that's heavy. That's heavy, y'all. Ooh.
They hit her with that BIE.
What's the BIE?
Black Identity Extremist. She's
extremist.
A terrorist.
Yep.
On the terrorist watch list. All of that sovereign stuff.
Yep.
All of that paperwork. That's paper terrorism.
That's paper terrorism. Yep. Because number one, it was all language that got her in the hole, if that makes sense. It was all language, and then she was out the door when she stated clearly who she was and what they didn't have. That's why he abandoned the bench. And that's why it's dangerous for folks to be out here calling themselves teaching people how to deal in these courts, and then they wind up fucking them up even more.
Right.
Because she could have been out the door once he abandoned that bench, saying, okay, case dismissed, walk out and get the fuck on. But once he came back on that bench, that's when he say, oh, well, I got jurisdiction over you, he or she, and it was motherfucking on and popping from that point on. That is not the first time I have heard that. That is the third time I have heard that happen. And then you throw on top of it, you were more, you were this, and you were that. Oh, you were more? Okay, yeah. You're on the terrorism list. So then when she brought up that I'm going to sue you, they considered that an act of terrorism because of that more label. Because they was using paper, they called it paper terrorism, and suing people and putting liens on those officials. So that's how all of that dynamic work. I'm truly sorry that happened to the sis. I really, truly am sorry. But I hope that people learn from what she has just shared with us, that you're not supposed to be going on what anybody says. You're supposed to know who you are. You're supposed to know why you do what you do. And when you don't, you're going on, well, I think I know, or I think that's what somebody says. You're going to fuck yourself up every time. And at the end, who is going to be there to help you? Exactly. You and yours. Now it's her and her immediate family that's fighting the problem. All of the rest of the paper pushers don't have nothing for her. So out of all of this family, that's why every week we get on here and say, know who you are. Not what I'm telling you, not what Brother Sean's telling you, not what Sis Sandra is telling you. You have to know who you are yourself. If you want to deal in that corporate game, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. If you want to mix up the stuff with the Moors and the common law and all that, you better pick up the motherfucking books yourself. All starts with self. You have to do the work. You have to do the internal spiritual work first. Because like I said before, freedom starts in the mind. Most folks that walk in them courtrooms, they don't even believe that. So they use the books and the paperwork on what they think is going to work and still fuck themselves up. It starts with you first. No amount of paperwork somebody gonna give you, no amount of lecture somebody's gonna give you is going to matter. You have to know for self. So I do want to thank that sis for sharing that. She did not have to do that, to put herself out there like that, but it will help a lot of people. Be careful. I just read that statement. Be careful who you have representing you or whose information that you are taking into your temple to represent you. Because ultimately, in the end, you are going to be responsible for that. Not them, but you. You are supposed to be able to stand on your own and not being associated with any group. Your foundation is you and your family. So thank you for that, sis. Whew. And I'm going to send out positive vibrations to you. Damn, oh man, I'm kind of speechless on that. I don't even like that it went that way.
That's why the system has to go.
Yeah, it has to go.
If the system wasn't in place, she wouldn't even have to be going through all that BS to begin with.
Exactly. And it really frustrates me that it's gotten to the point where folks need 4 or 5 books to understand what the fuck a fraudulent system is. It's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't want any parts of it. I don't give a fuck about no legal, lawful, none of that. It is against the universal laws. It is a violation of me as a divine being. And all the rest of that shit, sovereignty, that's just by fucking default. But I'm a divine being out of all of this. So yeah, all of it have to go. So that's why every week when Brother Sean and I get up here saying we don't want shit to do with it, that is a perfect example. Right there. It all has to go. All of this goddamn paperwork where you submit this, you cross this, you dance around there, you cross your arm. Oh, you didn't cross your arm the correct way. Lock up. It's all an illusion, folks. It's not real. And every time we keep giving it validity, giving it a workaround, the shit persists. It keeps going on. Only you can stop the madness. This is on your motherfucking land, not theirs. Your motherfucking land. That administrative maritime law is happening. It's on your watch, your shit. And it's only going to stop when you say it stops. So, wow. Whew. Okay. All right. The next article. Indigenous peoples in voluntary isolation or initial contact. Whew. Indigenous peoples in voluntary isolation or initial contact have the right to remain in that condition and to live freely and in accordance with their cultures. 2. The states shall adopt adequate policies and measures with the knowledge and participation of indigenous peoples and organizations to recognize, respect, and protect the lands, territories, environment, and cultures of these peoples, as well as their life and individual and collective integrity. Okay, so that's indigenous people in voluntary isolation or initial contact. So right there, it lets you know that as an indigenous person, although you don't need them to fucking tell you this again, that you have the right to remain and live freely. So help me to understand, how is being locked behind bars on some administrative bullshit if I have not caused harm to anyone? And even in that perspective, that is for me and my culture to handle what my punishment shall be, or my sentencing should be, not an administrative court. So it just shows you how the fuckery continues when none of that shit should be applying to us. All right, next article. So that's 25, 6, 7, 27. Labor rights. Indigenous people and persons have the rights and guarantees recognized in national and international labor laws. States shall take all special measures to prevent, punish, and remedy the discrimination to which indigenous people and persons are subjected. 2. States in conjunction with indigenous people shall adopt immediate and effective measures to eliminate exploitative labor practices with regard to indigenous peoples, in particular indigenous children, women, and elders. 3. In case indigenous peoples are not effectively protected by the laws applicable to workers in general, states in conjunction with indigenous people shall take all measures that may be necessary in order to A. Protect indigenous workers and employees in relation to contracting under fair and equal conditions in both formal and informal employment. B. Establish, apply, or improve labor inspection and the enforcement of rules with particular attention to inter alia regions, companies, and labor activities in which indigenous workers or employees participate. C. Establish, apply, or enforce laws so that both female and male indigenous workers enjoy opportunities and treatment in all terms, conditions, and benefits of employment, including training and capacity building under national and international law. Enjoy the right of association, the right to form trade unions. I found this interesting. The right to form trade unions and join trade union activities, and the right to bargain collectively with employers through representatives of their own choosing or workers' organizations, including traditional authorities. Are not subject to discrimination or harassment on the basis of inter alia, race, sex, indigenous origin, or identity. Are not subject to coercive hiring systems, including debt, servitude, or any other form of force or compulsory labor, regardless of whether the labor arrangement arises from law, custom, or an individual or collective arrangement, in which case the labor arrangement shall be deemed obsolete, null, and void. Are not forced to work in conditions that endanger their health and personal safety, and are protected from work that does not comport with occupational health and safety standards, and receive full and effective legal protection without discrimination when they provide their services as seasonal, occasional, or migrant workers, as well as when they are contracted by employers such that they receive the benefits of the national legislation and practices which shall be in accordance with the international human laws and standards for this category of workers. Ensure that the indigenous workers and their employers are informed of the rights of the indigenous workers under national law and international and indigenous standards, and of the remedies and actions available to them to protect those rights. States shall take measures to promote employment of indigenous individuals. Okay, I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on that. I'm going to take a sip of water. That was a lot.
You already know. Well, if we got our own land, rights to everything in the land, what we need a job from them for?
You know, that was the first thing I was thinking when I was reading it, but yes.
And union for what?
Yep.
Equal opportunities. But they want equal opportunities with us. This our shit.
Right.
I mean, if the land, all the resources, everything ours, I mean, we're talking labor laws. Why?
Right.
I mean, I remember correctly, when the Cologne dude came over here, he was like, these people over here chilling, they ain't doing shit.
Mm-mm.
They
So
living
what?
a life.
Yep.
They living a life. So
Yep.
I'm not understanding all this.
Understanding that labor law stuff. Yeah, because, I mean, I'm sorry, Brother Sean, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, go ahead, sis.
Well, I mean, because technically, I mean, if you really want to keep it real, motherfucking real, what's supposed to be happening is, okay, I, as an indigenous person, or us as collective indigenous people, let's say, you know, Sean and I and Sis are in the same particular tribe, and we have this tribal territory, and XYZ company, foreigner and foreign entity company sits down and works up an agreement with us to rent the land to produce their goods and services. Okay, not only do you have to pay me to be on my motherfucking land, but you have to pay me a percentage of your profits, and you have to abide by these set of rules while you are on our land. This is how you will be governed on our land. That's how that's supposed to work. But if I want your monkey ass over here, that's a big if. I'm just trying to put it in perspective to the family what is supposed to be happening if someone is on your land as a guest or a visitor. Okay. And furthermore, the poor Mexicans that's working illegally, and I shouldn't only just say Mexicans, but they're the largest population, they really being screwed over left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're protected. They're part of the Americas. And actually, based on their own words, the indigenous people have more pull because they're allowed to set up unions. And you know, in the 80s, a lot of you youngins may not know this, but in the 80s under Reagan administration, they busted up the unions, which was the decline of middle class wages, conditions, and quite frankly, jobs in this country. So just to show you how documentation, treaties, paperwork, how far it gets you. Okay, it's like a double-edged sword. But the sad part about it is if you don't know who you are and you don't research shit on your own, you'll really be getting screwed over even more. Okay. All right. So article. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
And then number 4, are not subject to coercive hiring systems, including debt servitude or any form of forced or compulsory labor, regardless of labor arrangements from both. Child support.
Yep.
People going to jail for being broke.
Right. And folks, because don't they make you, when some people that's on parole, don't they have to pay? A lot of states make you pay. You on my fucking parole, you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and then people that are getting, they want cash assistance. They got to work at least 32 to 40 hours a week just to get that couple $100 a month.
Yeah, that's coercion. Yeah, that's coercion right there. Yeah. Absolutely. And we can scroll back up because really that's theirs anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was missing something, including the health care.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's violations all up and through this, all up and through. Now this is they motherfucking documentation. We didn't come up with this shit. This they motherfucking documentation that they break it on a regular basis. Okay. So Article 25, 6, 7, 8. Article 28, page 13. Protection of cultural heritage and intellectual property. Oh, boy. Okay. Indigenous people have the right to full recognition and respect for their property ownership, possession, control, development, and protection of their tangible and intangible cultural heritage and intellectual property, including its collective nature, transmitted through millennia from generation to generation. Stop right there. Tell me again why the fuck we need the music industry and signing contracts with them. Aren't the artists the one creating it? Is it not their and I'm speaking on the indigenous of the Americas? Is that not their intellectual property that is transmitted from generation to generation? So from the folk songs to the blues to the rock to the rap to the R&B to the jazz, indigenous people created all that shit and have not been owners of it for the most part. And it is their intellectual property. What about the traffic light that's been invented? been invented. The motherfucking internet that's been invented. And we could go on and on and on. Those indigenous people, that is their intellectual property. Tangible and intangible. Henrietta Lacks. Okay, so this is just showing you, I'm not making this up. This is their shit that they're putting down. All right. 2. The collective intellectual property of indigenous peoples include inter alia traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, including traditional knowledge associated with genetic resources, ancestral designs and procedures. So that means motherfucking French braids in my motherfucking head, bitches. My motherfucking locks. That's just a small example. All the ancient symbols and codes, that includes all that goddamn cultural, artistic, spiritual, technological, and scientific expressions, tangible and intangible cultural heritage, as well as the knowledge and development of their own related to biodiversity and the utility and qualities of seeds and medicinal plants, flora and fauna. So that's my motherfucking weed. That's the motherfucking tobacco. Whether people like it or not, that's that motherfucking coca plant too. And just on that alone, the weed, the coca plant, many melanated people have been locked up over that bullshit. So I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it while I take a sip of water.
You already know. Now, everything they're talking about is from arts, science, medicine, spirituality, everything that the world has is ours.
It's ours. That's right.
Because, I mean, let's talk about the commission people, the Egyptologists. I mean, through their own research, they say that they got everything from thought, right?
Right. That's what they say.
Who was allegedly an Atlantean. And we know Atlantis was over here, so that's them admitting that they got everything they knew from somebody here.
That's right.
So basically, if we have the rights to everything that was ours from the beginning, don't that include them?
Yeah, I never thought of it like that.
Don't are telling you to take your little bad ass back to the cave, meaning that you're supposed to be going to your room?
Tell your children, right. Right. And I put it even a step further because technically that is the Moors' children. Let's get it right now. Because
I'm just saying, they learned from us.
But no, you have a good point though. So that's telling somebody else, get your motherfucking badass children in line. And matter of fact, you get the fuck on too. Because that's their children. They mistreated their children. And then brought them over here. And then they asses got, for the most part, taken over. Although it's still some higher ups behind the scenes running stuff, but that's a different story. But absolutely. Absolutely. And next week, I know we only have 5 minutes. We left off at right to development. I'm gonna pick this up next week. We should be able to conclude this next week because I do want to officially get through this. And then I encourage the family to go back over it, read for yourself, to just see what they put down on paper. So I do want to officially complete this. So we're going to do that next week. And then if time permits, we will start part 1 of Who Are the Aliens, which is going to be directly kind of diving into how deep this really goes. Because it's what we're going to talk about is how the land and why we're in the position that we're in as the gods are battling. Okay, because we really only have 5 minutes. I know they're going to cut us off. So we will pick up at, where did we leave off at? See, I have to remind myself, y'all. Okay, we need to pick up at the right to development. So we'll pick up on that and conclude next week and then get into Who Are the Aliens. Sis, do you have any last words for the family?
I'm going to be putting out some positive energy for that young lady because
yes,
trickery is one thing that she didn't fall and prey to, and to know and do wrong, that's a different thing. So, right. I'm going to send out some positive energy. It'll work.
Absolutely.
It'll work.
Yeah, it's going to work.
She'll go through something, but it'll work. But
right. It's going to work out.
People need to understand, you can't follow these people. They don't have the answer. Only you have the answer. You can work out your own soul salvation. We say that all the time. You got to do it for yourself. You can't trust any of these organizations to give you the right answers because everybody has a different answer. Even like every different tribe has a different answer. But anyhow, that's all I'm going to say. I'm doing it quick.
All right.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Brother Sean, you have any last words for the family? Uh-oh. Did he get cut off?
I guess he did. Hey, we got up to 8 o'clock last week. They giving us until 7 this week.
No, I'm here, sir.
Oh, okay. I was like, did he get cut off? Oh, boy. You have any last words for the family?
Trump knows the truth. He's a time traveler.
Yeah, we need to, next week, make sure that you bring that up, especially before we get to the topic, Who Are the Aliens? Because, I can't wait to next week, y'all. It's going to be my fucking on and popping. We're definitely going to finish up this document because I want the family to be aware. Now, I am putting out a disclaimer. This is not a Bible for you to use. It is for you to be aware of. But you have to get the answers from within. And it starts, like I said, with knowing who you are. Okay? But I do want to make you aware that out of their own words, this is what is supposed to be happening, how they are supposed to be operating. Okay, at a minimum. So we will be back next week. We will finish up the rest of ADRIP, and then we're going to get in Who Are the Aliens. And we're going to be talking about each different, quote, quote, race and how they are associated with the ancient gods and who is whom. Okay, so I do want to thank the family very much for going along on this journey with us, and we will be back next week. Thanks to my co-hosts, Brother Sean and Sis Sandra. Love you two very much. So peace and love, family.